Hello, I'm U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. When we look back at what transportation was like before the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Air Carrier Access Act, we see a country that constricted the movement and therefore the lives and livelihoods of about 1 in 4 Americans. Disability advocates worked tirelessly to pass those laws and secure the kind of progress that has been made in the 33 years since the ADA's passage. But despite that progress, we still have so much more to do. As we look to the future of U.S. transportation, the Biden-Harris administration believes that we can build an America where people with disabilities can move safely and fairly, whether it's to grab a cup of coffee across the street or fly across the country. To deliver that future, I want to share some updates on what we're doing across the 4 disability policy priorities that we introduced a year ago. Our first pillar is safe and accessible air travel. I've heard so many stories from advocates and friends who have had the experience of being wheelchair users who are also airline passengers about having wheelchair equipment damaged or destroyed, or even being injured or dropped, situations that no passenger should ever face in America's airspace. That's why we are working towards the goal of allowing passengers to stay in their personal wheelchairs while on board. We know that won't come overnight, but we are getting underway, and I am pleased to share that the FAA has initiated a 3-year research roadmap on what it will take to do that safely. And as we work on this multi-year goal, we're improving the safety and accessibility of air travel through other means. Through President Biden's infrastructure law, we have already funded 73 projects to improve accessibility at airport terminals, adding wheelchair ramps, accessible restrooms, and more. We're developing a proposed rule that would expand training requirements for airline staff who assist passengers with disabilities. And we will welcome comments on this proposal once it is released. And today, we are pleased to officially announce a rule that will increase the size and accessibility of airplane restrooms to better accommodate wheelchairs, because traveling can be stressful enough without having to worry about whether or not you will be able to access the bathroom. Our second pillar is improving the accessibility of public transit, roads, and sidewalks. We're investing $686 million to retrofit old railroad and subway stations, including installing elevators, reducing platform gaps, and updating fare gates in New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, and more locations. This is the first ever federal program specifically dedicated to this work, and we'll be making additional awards in the coming years. We're also collaborating with the U.S. Access Board on their public rights-of-way accessibility guidelines. This will improve the accessibility of sidewalks and streets, pedestrian signals, shared use paths, and more. Our third pillar is access to good-paying jobs and economic opportunity. Much of that will come as a result of improved transportation that allows people with disabilities to get to jobs. But some can also come directly from competing for and winning contracts that are created by our infrastructure investments. And we're working hard to make sure that disadvantaged business enterprise, or DBEs, have a fair shot at these transportation contracts. Our fourth and final pillar is the accessibility of electric vehicles and automated vehicles. We must ensure that the vehicles of the future benefit everyone, including people with disabilities. That is one of the reasons why last July we announced the winners of the inaugural Inclusive Design Challenge. We awarded funding to 3 teams to develop design solutions to enable people with physical, sensory, and cognitive disabilities to use automated vehicles. And we're strongly recommending that states follow accessibility standards for their EV chargers. And we'll work with the U.S. Access Board on their rulemaking to formally adopt accessibility guidelines for EV charging stations. Making our transportation more accessible is the fair thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And it is the smartest way forward for a country that can empower almost 70 million Americans to better be able to live their fullest lives and make their mark on this world. I want to again recognize every disability advocate and all of my colleagues in the public sector for the progress we're making and for all the progress that we will make in the years to come.